You're listening to Co-op Radio, KVRX HD3 Austin, streaming at koop.org. Radio for people, not for profit. And this is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. I'm Mike Wheat.
And I'm Kanya Lyons. Each week on our show, we go beyond the stacks and get to know the people and the programs that make the library a hub of learning, technology, and inspiration for the community.
And that's right. And again, thanks to our kind folks at Writing on the Air for telling their listeners all about our show. And today we are joined with a very friendly, fun person that we love very much, Mr. Barry Miller from the Central Library.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you,
You're very
Kanya.
welcome. He is APL's media selector nonfiction selector.
Adult nonfiction.
In all media formats, yeah.
What kind of adult? No, I'm just kidding. Meaning not children's books.
Yeah.
So
welcome, Barry.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I've been very excited. to
We've
be
been
here with
excited
you.
to have you on.
Thank you.
yeah, we can't wait to get started. Well, so first of all, where do you come from? Are you from Austin?
I hail from the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, and grew up in Detroit and Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Wow. In that order?
Yes, in that
So
order.
born in Detroit?
Born in Detroit
At the Ford Motor Company?
at the Women's Hospital.
Nice.
So what brought you down to Austin, Texas?
Well, I have you will indulge me for just a minute, I have a kind of a little humorous story to tell about how I ended up here at Austin Public 36 years ago.
What?
Back in the early 80s, there was a paucity of library jobs that were being advertised, and I was in Ann Arbor at the time, and like so many people before me, didn't want to leave that lovely town. So I stayed at probably a year longer than I should have, but I saw at the library school job board 3 jobs that were being advertised at the Austin Public Library. And that was unheard of at that time in 1981, 3 jobs. I applied, and
And at that time,
For
you
all
were
3?
already a librarian?
I was
Okay.
a librarian, had my degree, and had gotten several job opportunities in far-flung, geographically desolate places that were fine. The jobs were fine. I just didn't want to go to Stillwater, Oklahoma, or Odessa, Texas, or Brookings, South Dakota. So when I applied for the job at Austin, they had already filled 2 of the 3. The last one was open. What they didn't tell me was that the third and final position was on the bubble. It was during budget time, and it was at risk of being cut. In fact, everybody assumed it was going to be cut, and that's why they were having problems filling it. So they actually hired me over the phone. I didn't come down for an interview. I wasn't asked to come down for an interview. They gave it to me over the phone. I said yes. I liken it to a blind date that turned into a fairly successful 36-year marriage.
So are you saying your position was the one that could have been cut?
Yes.
And now you're here 36 years later.
Yes, here to tell the story.
Awesome.
I didn't even know they did phone interviews back in 1981.
That seems pretty high tech.
I think it's the first and only time that has ever happened where someone was hired over the phone.
Did you have to fax anything?
No, I don't even think there were faxes then.
Yeah, I don't know. So, okay. So, where did you go to school? You went to school in Michigan for your library?
I did my graduate work at the University of Michigan. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
I'm a diehard Wolverine fan.
Good.
Nice.
I would hope so. You gave them enough money. All right. So you get to Austin. You've got this job.
And the day I arrived, I arrived the day after, DJ will remember this, the killer Memorial Day floods of 1981. 7 people died. I woke up the next morning and saw the 10-point type in the front page of the Austin American-Statesman, and I couldn't believe it.
So did you arrive during that storm?
The day before, actually.
Oh my God. I was here for that.
So it was kind of your fault.
That's giving me a little too much power.
Yeah, I don't know. You're the
Wow.
nonfiction selector.
So what's kept you here at the Austin Public Library all these 36 years?
It's a great question, Kanya, and I
often ask myself.
Well, we all know Austin being what it is, that it's a town that everyone comes to and very few people leave.
Yeah.
For any number of reasons. But I love Austin, and I've cultivated a lot of different interests and several different kinds of lives here, and all of them collectively have made me the person that I am today, and I continue to very much enjoy and thrive in this town.
I think that's what happens in the city and why we come and stay here is it's a lot of creatives at different outlets of creativity, but we seem to flock to each other. We find these, like, I realized that when I went to art school that I did my best work when I was around all these other artists. And I don't know if it's similar to how the leading horse has to stay and lead, so you're always in this silent competition or whatever, but I feel like being in this town, I'm at home.
There's this feeling of it being a constant kind of incubator of creativity and ideas.
And I feel like it forces me to grow and evolve, whereas in some other places I've lived have not done that for me. You know, it pushes you a little.
Yeah, you can't stay stagnant in your medium. It keeps changing.
That's cool. Well,
back to you, Barry. You're So we're going to continue our conversation with Barry Miller, and we'll talk about the nonfiction at the library. But first, 3 of our favorite librarians are going to tell us all about some of the community groups, activities, events happening at Austin Public Libraries across town.
My name is Blair Parsons, and I'm a reference librarian at the Falk Central Library. The Austin Public Library's Adult Trivia Night series continues with a Mad About Movies trivia session Thursday, April 13th at the Southeast Branch Library. There will be 8 rounds with 8 questions per round, including audio and video rounds. The Mad About Movies Trivia Night begins at 6:30, Thursday, April 13th at the Southeast Branch Library. The Carver Branch Library will host Women in Tech Saturday, April 15th from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Speakers include Mellie Price, Executive Director of Technology and Innovation at Dell Medical School, Gina Helfrich, co-founder of Recruit Her and founder of Feminist Hack ATX, Heather Ross, lead developer at Women in Games Austin, and Leah Lasala, founder and CEO of Astral AR. A question and answer session will follow the talks. Women in Tech is from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., Saturday, April 15th at the Carver Branch Library.
Hey there, Austin. Michael Harley here. I'm the Teen Program Specialist at the Falk Central Library downtown, and I'm here with a rundown of all the teen and tween events happening across the Austin Public Library system this week. It's a great week for teen book clubs with a variety of genres and styles to choose from. Tomorrow, April 13th, the Teen Manga Book Club meets at the Little Walnut Creek branch at 5:30 p.m. with button making, trivia, and snacks. Due to mature content, this book club is for teens ages 13 to 18. Also tomorrow, April 13th, the Spicewood Springs Branch Teen Book Club will be meeting at 6:30 p.m. to discuss Elizabeth Wine's young adult novel, codename Verity, in preparation for Miss Wine's visit to Austin in May. And another book club tomorrow, April 13th, this time at the Yarborough Branch at 7 p.m. with a discussion of the 1961 Newbery Award winner, Island of the Blue Dolphins by Scott Odell. Taking a break from book clubs for a little bit here, on Friday, April 14th at 2 p.m., the University Hills branch will be breaking out the Wii U for a Family Super Smash Bros. Team gaming tournament. All ages are welcome to compete. Sign-ups open at 1:30, and the first 16 teams are guaranteed a spot to play. Also on Friday, April 14th at 4 p.m., the Southeast Branch continues their Shaping Spaces Art Workshop series for grades 4th through 9th, exploring the overlap of innovation and nature with STEAM-based programming. This week, the main project is Balloon Towers. And finally, on Tuesday, April 18th at 6:30 p.m., the Housen Branch will host, you guessed it, another teen book club, where Matt Phelan's graphic novel, Snow White, will be the main topic of discussion. More details for these and additional library programs can be found at library.austintexas.gov/events.
This is Ann Minner, Youth Services Manager and Children's Librarian at the Old Quarry Branch. I get to tell you about some Austin Public Library events happening for children this week. Reading to a dog in the library? That sounds like fun. And it is. Kids of all ages find these certified Austin Dog Alliance trained therapy dogs to be attentive, non-judgmental listeners. These wonderful dogs and their humans are trained extensively and visit the Austin Public Libraries to encourage reading in a relaxed atmosphere that builds confidence. Kids of all reading levels are welcome to read to a Bow Wow reading dog at the North Village Branch at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday the 13th, at the Old Quarry Branch at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday the 20th, or at the Yarborough Branch at 11:30 a.m. every Saturday. Details about additional Bow Wow reading dog visits are at library.austintexas.gov.
Austin Book Arts Center is a new nonprofit teaching book arts to promote literacy. Our classes include bookbinding, letterpress printing, calligraphy, book repair, and decorative papermaking. More info at atxbookarts.org.
You're listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. We're back to continue our discussion with Barry Miller about nonfiction at the library.
And before we left, we mentioned something about being creatives, blah, blah, blah. So, Barry, what's your life outside of being a librarian on your creative front?
So, Mike, for the past 30 years, I've been a company member at Austin Playhouse, which also has been Live Oak and the State Theater Company. I'm a member of Actors Equity, which is the professional association which represents stage actors and stage managers. So the theater is one of my passions.
Yeah.
And I love it. And if I'm not at the library, I'm usually in a dark theater.
Really?
Yeah.
And you stage manage, and do you do acting as well?
I stage manage. Primarily these days, I'm a stage manager. Back in the day, I was primarily an actor. I go back and forth. Sometimes I do both simultaneously.
Sounds complicated.
Maybe you're doing it all the time and you just can't tell anymore.
It's interesting. So that's one of my loves.
Are you acting right now?
Do I have to tell the truth?
No. That would give it away.
I also heard a little bird told me that you have an extensive collection of 16mm films, and then you were saying you collect everything.
So, Kanya, and this will be a good segue into the library part of this program, which I know we eventually want to get to.
Let's get back on topic soon.
But I am an inveterate collector, as my 3 storage units, which are crammed full, will attest to, and I have lots of interests, pop culture, kitsch. I share some of these with DJ, and and it influenced the kind of books that I would select for him when he was the manager at Windsor and Pleasant Hill. But my ultimate primary love and focus is vintage professional wrestling memorabilia.
Really?
Wow.
And as one quick aside, and this is the God's honest truth, I have the largest collection of vintage professional wrestling posters in the country.
That's a certified fact?
It is.
Wow. Is there
For what it's worth.
What is it worth? No, you don't have to say that.
That's pretty
All right.
interesting.
So collecting,
You're a collector.
sorting materials.
So,
Collections.
in my job as the nonfiction selector of adult materials for the Austin Public Library, that's what I do. I collect, select, and basically I'm a part of a team of selectors within the Cataloging and Collection Services Division of the Austin Public Library. And this team of comrades and like-minded individuals collectively curate the materials collection for the entire Austin Public Library system. My part of that is adult nonfiction.
Okay.
Excellent. So nonfiction is pretty broad. Can you talk about some of the
everything under the
types and
sky,
categories?
Kanye? If you were to open any volume of, let's say, the World Book Encyclopedia or Encyclopedia Britannica, it would be an area that I would cover. So it's philosophy, it's religion, it's hard science, it's pseudoscience, it's social science, it's technology, animals, pets, crafts, arts,
So
everything.
How do you even get started? Like, what's your process in selecting? How do you even...
So all the selectors are guided by primarily a document that we have and is publicly available called the a material selection policy. And this policy lays out criteria that we
Is that a
use.
national policy?
It's every library would have a policy like this. Ours is individually crafted, as would most of them would be. But this policy dictates how we select materials and some of the processes by which we do that. For me, I look at a lot of reviews. I'm constantly reading reviews, and actually everything is fair game for me in my job as a selector. When we first came in, Kanye, I saw a book on the table about radio business, and I immediately went to, do we have that book at the library? That looks like a good book. I want to find out if we have that. So I constantly am reading reviews, reading journals, reading newspapers, magazines, television. I talk to friends incessantly and ask people what they're reading. It is a very collaborative, participatory system for all of us, for me in particular, because I have definite interests in the sphere of nonfiction, but because it's so broad, I depend on the interests and passions of lots and lots of friends and people throughout the entire city who would contribute to this process by letting me know about really good books that we don't have that we should have.
Well, I want to commend you on having really great books available on UX design and whatever. When I first wanted to start looking into that, I immediately thought, let me go look at the collection, and you had some really great up-to-date
Mike,
books.
now that is a perfect example of where I get help, because the computer sphere is one of my many blind spots. Fortunately, I am backed up by some wonderful reference librarians who make great suggestions, and Meg, who's been on the show before, I know, is one of them, and she contributes lots of ideas. Ultimately, all the selectors make the decisions, the final decisions about what we collect and what we.
Well, the
what we
UX
buy.
stands for user experience.
That much I know. But we get a lot of help, and I get a lot of help, and I actually. I cultivate that, and I depend on it.
Well, and that kind of segues us right into talking about the suggest a title function, which anyone in the community is empowered to say, hey, you don't have this book, I want it.
And boy, do they use that power, Kanye.
Yes, good.
It's theirs.
I average about, I'd say Dale Kittendorf, who is our media selector, and I probably
We had him on the show once.
probably get the most suggested title requests. Diana Miranda Murillo, who does adult fiction, probably gets quite a few too. But I average between 200 and 300 of those requests a month.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize.
It's a very popular service. And fortunately, it is well used. But I can't encourage people enough to take advantage of that. That is the means by which anyone can suggest that we have a book. Get a book that we don't already have, or get more copies of a book that we do have that they don't feel we have enough copies
And the
of.
criteria is that policy that you were talking about. And so it's my understanding that like almost all of the suggestions, like you're almost always able to fulfill people's requests. There's a very small percentage of things that aren't available or that are.
So here's a overarching sensibility, I think, that people need to keep in mind when thinking about this. And that is that the Austin Public Library is a general interest or popular collection. So we can't go as far down the esoteric, academic continuum as some people would want us to do.
That's what the TechShare card is for.
And
You can
Good
get
point.
stuff. I've used it because I
also
had
very
something
popular.
esoteric that I
Yes,
needed.
Yes. So sadly, we will have to decline a lot of requests for that reason.
Okay.
But there are other avenues available to people to get those materials.
Are there any other challenges that you guys have in making sure you can get the materials requested? Money. Always money.
We have a materials budget, which sadly is never enough, but I think you could put anybody on the show from anywhere and they'd all say the same thing. We do the best we can, of course. So that's one of the primary challenges. Another challenge is just working with our vendors and making sure that the materials that we want are available through them,
right,
and that we get them in a timely fashion. That tends to be a roadblock from time to time that comes up.
Yeah, I imagine.
So what else would you like to tell the people of Austin about nonfiction at the Austin Public Library, or the process, or anything, something you wish people knew?
What I would want people to know is that this is their library. It belongs to them. It belongs to all of us. And to the extent that they want to participate, they can. And I want to encourage people as much as I can to help me personally build an amazing nonfiction collection at the Austin Public Library.
And do you feel like a personal commitment to make sure we keep acquiring physical media?
So I have a definite bias towards tactile things. I like to touch, and digital is wonderful. Any means that gets people to read is to be encouraged and explored.
Exactly.
Because of who I am, I emphasize.
I think most
books.
of us are that way. I mean,
Yeah.
the new digital movement was great, but I mean, us who grew up with analog, but even my child who grew up during the digital movement is going back to more analog media. I even just for his 18th birthday bought him a record player, and he loves it.
And we know that the pendulum always swings both ways.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Trends come and go.
retro is in.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was actually, having this conversation the other day, like when it comes to like really encouraging kids to read, the thing is it's just so easy. I say kids, but people really, humans of all ages. It's just so easy to pick up a book and open it up and just start reading. Whereas when you have a device, you pick it up and there's all these competing things like, oh no, I got a text, and oh no, there's this other thing and that, and you get lost in it.
Get
and
sidetracked
so you
by
may
your
intend
likes.
to read or and then there's like the maintenance of downloading the thing, and then did you get and it's like it's great for certain people for being on the go. I mean, it has its advantages,
Definitely.
clearly, in some ways, but like I think the
Doesn't mean we
ease
need to
of
wipe the
a
other out.
book, for me,
Right.
the physical book is so.
They're not mutually exclusive.
No, not at all. And actually, most people that I know do both, depending on their needs at the moment. But yeah, there's just something about opening a book. That's all it takes. You just open it and you start reading. You don't have to push any buttons.
I don't know if this is kind of a repeat of what Kanya might have asked, but I mean, is there anything you want the customers to know about our nonfiction collection? Anything that just give you titles?
From my perspective, in terms of what I do, that's something that I want them to do. I just want them to know that. We do have a great collection, and we're about to move to a new library, and I invite everybody to be a part of this experience.
So have you had a lot of fun picking materials to be ordered for the new library?
Actually, Mike, that's been great fun.
I bet.
I get to go shopping all day long, and I love that.
You're never depressed.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, man.
So I bet you, I mean, your collections probably grow because you're constantly getting all this new material and seeing new things. You're like, oh, that's cool too. Now I've got to get my hands on that.
Yeah, and of course, while we're adding things, things are also going away too. It's this constant yin and yang kind of approach to adding and subtracting.
Oh, you got a fun job, man.
I do. But so do you guys.
Yeah. Well, we got the right people in the right places, that's for sure.
You're too kind. I can't thank you guys enough for inviting me and having me on the show. I've really enjoyed this.
It's
Thank
been
you.
a blast.
Thank you.
Definitely
very
wish
much.
we could keep it going.
It's been awesome. So I just want to reiterate that if people, the suggest a title option that we were talking about earlier is at the bottom of the catalog page, which is available at library.austintexas.gov/catalog. And that's just a cool thing that anyone can do.
Just one more.
Just one more thing.
That's right. And again, thank you, Barry, for coming on. You just said where we can find that stuff, so that's great. You're listening to KVRX, HD Austin, HD3 Austin, radio for people, not for profit. This is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. You're listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show.
On Co-op 91.7 FM, Hornsby, Austin, radio for people, not for profit.
Support comes from Austin Community College, hosting the 2017 Vision and Voice Award reception, Friday, April 28th at 6 p.m. at the ACC Eastview campus. Learn more about this AISD poetry initiative at visionandvoice.org.
Hey, everybody. We're back to talk a little bit about National Poetry Month, which is the month of April. And the Austin Public Library is celebrating National Poetry Month by uploading a video a day or sharing a video a day on the library's Facebook page at noon every single day for the entire month of April. It's super cool. And we're actually about to share a poem read by Zoe Darcy, who was one of the many local poets who stepped up and were a part of this project to celebrate National Poetry Month.
My name is Zoe Darcy. This poem is called En Sappho. This club is a pond, nothing moving, not even the dancers. I keep my eyes closed. No one can see me but for my moving. I've settled some debts tonight. I can put myself to sleep and my ego lays down with me. Thursday, smoke a spliff and write in the yellow notebook, I'm overwhelmed by the most basic sensations, someone else's anger, the dimming afternoon. I make a plea here, if you don't pray, you must be missing something. Whether the ego prays or the hands themselves with themselves. In other words, what spell do I have to phrase to get your attention? One has to learn intentions to the mutable future, to grimace with two faces. And hasn't gesture gained enough for its image lately? I dance with my arms closed, my head on an anchor that suits me. You watch. I would like to remind you, you still have eyes with which to pray.
That was Zoe Darcy sharing her poem with us for National Poetry Month. Every day at noon on the library's Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Austin Library, there will be a new poem by a local poet shared. So we encourage people to, whatever.
If you like poems,
Enjoy poetry.
It's there for you.
It's there.
Well, I just want to say, Kanya, it's been a lot of fun working with you again. We have been hit and miss the last few shows working together, so it's great to be together again. And definitely thanks to you, Mr. Barry Miller, for coming on today. Next week, we'll have Mindy Reed and Aaron Brookhart in the studio. They're going to talk about recycled reeds and sustainability in honor of Earth Day. We may even get to hear a little bit about what's in store for the new store at the New Central.
Gift shop.
Miss Aaron Brookhart will be managing that, and so it'll be nice to talk to them. Additional information about the Austin Public Library can be found at library.austintexas.gov. And I think we're done, guys.
We're out.
We're out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Details at library.austintexas.gov/volumes.
Want to give a special thanks to our audio engineer, DJ Harris, and our volunteer production assistant, Sev Corson.
And thanks to the musicians who composed and performed our original theme song: Andrew Noble on violin, Kirk Duvall on guitar, and APL's very own Mike Wheat on percussion.
Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show, airs Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on KOOP.org Community Radio.